Hello, everyone. It's rather nice to be here on a rather semi-frequently schedule compared to last time, where I kind of disappeared for 2 months and didn't really say anything. But hey, we managed to get episode 2 off the ground. Here with me once again, returning as my co-hostess, ex-birthday girl, Ducky. Thanks so much for agreeing to come back on.
No, I'm glad to be here again. I enjoyed the last cast that we did, and I'm surprised you asked me for another one. So thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. And joining us today, we got a new duo of sorts here. I've never really done a quadcast before. Tricasting has been the closest I've got to, but I thought these two were kind of inseparable. They kind of go together like peanut butter and jam, so I thought I couldn't really have one without the other. First, they are the creator of Zephyr. I can't pronounce their name. I'm just going to call you what we call you in COA. Shampoo, thank you so much for coming on.
Pronounced Shplurmff.
Shplurmff, yes.
Yeah, it's all one syllable.
And also joining me here, he is a pro player, current host of the Friday night tournament Blueberry Bout, ISG Sparks 21.
How's it going?
It's going pretty nice. How about you?
Just a little tired.
I think that's a lot of people. Wednesdays are usually my off days, so I usually like to sleep in as well. I honestly forgot today was going to be the day.
Oh, I definitely forgot.
So I brought you two on because this was kind of something I've always wanted to do. Rather, like, always wanted to talk about. And it's like, I think, like, Shplurmff has, like, a really good understanding of good movement mechanics in his characters. And I really wanted at some point to, get him into a situation where I can discuss it with him. And now we're here, now that's happening. I pulled in Sparks because there's kind of, I like to get these different, control groups, like developers and players. I like to get a little bit of mix of both because I think both is important. So why don't we just go ahead and jump right into it? There we go. That's my daily dose of caffeine for today. So to my knowledge, Shplurmff, you're a pretty big platform fan, aren't you?
Yeah, generally.
What are some of your favorite platformers, actually, if you don't mind me asking?
All right. That's a hard question because there's like 200 million.
Yeah, there really is.
Some of my favorites are the new Donkey Kong Country games. I really like those. Recently played Celeste. Not recently. That's like years ago now. But like, if you allow me to go fast, I like you.
Well, I think having played some of your characters myself and having done some friendlies with a friend of mine not too much into Workshop Vice, I'm shouting you out again. It's definitely apparent that you do like to go fast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, I guess we'll kind of just start with what's more recent, since I think with Sparks here, we got a lot more attention on Zephyr now, with Sparks doing top 8 last Blueberry Bout, with Zephyr pretty much solo.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think I use anyone else, so.
I feel like Sparks is kind of like the top level Jack Loam.
Top level Jack Loam?
If I'm
That's
the
so
top-
rude!
no.
You gotta put your mans up!
Jack, I love you, baby. I love you. Nah, I mean, I think while I was doing a couple of roster things, every time I see Zephyr, I can't separate Zephyr from you, Sparks. Every time I see something cool with the character, it's I always think about you in the back of my mind.
I mean, I appreciate it. It's a little weird, but.
No, I mean, I guess what I wanted to start with is Shplurmff, do you think that oh god, what's a better way to word this? Do you think that moving feels good?
As Zephyr? Or...
Yeah,
Oh, right, yeah. Okay, I was trying to figure out what you're asking.
Feels very weird to say, in this type of subgenre for fighters, movement's a lot more emphasized on the vertical and horizontal axis than, in things that are more traditional. So, I mean, when you were making, I guess, both of your characters, was there anything in there where it's it's a platform fighter and the path's kind of, crossed?
It's more that I really like horizontal combos whenever they show up in Smash. Like, they're my favorite thing. Except most of the combos in that game are vertical, where you have something that sends up and then something that sends out.
So you like to take them across the stage, you know?
Yes,
Give them a tour.
that is my favorite thing.
Yeah.
And adding movement mechanics makes that a hell of a lot more interesting.
For sure.
I can
I've
definitely.
definitely noticed that. Like that was one of the big things that made me pick up Zephyr initially. Was just like, oh, I can do some air character shenanigans with this. I can take them all across the stage. I can take them from one side of the stage, and then it's like halfway through, it's like, you know what? Maybe we can just go back to where we started.
Go back. I like that spot a lot more.
Yeah.
I do like horizontal combos as well because it adds a little bit of variety with most characters. Because usually, as Slurmff said, is mostly vertical combos, and you can with Zephyr you can do with horizontal combos, but then you can also just mix it up and go above. You know, give them a little spice in the combos.
I think one of the things about Zephyr I really like is just like how free the movement is compared to like something else. Like usually when you have characters that focus on movement, they focus on like, you know, going on one axis. But with Zephyr you have like a much wider range of movement you have like permission to control.
Oh, absolutely.
Mario Cape is my savior. Thanks, Super
Like,
Mario World.
I remember when I was playing against Sparks last BB, you would always come on stage with a different strong, like, each and every time. It was never the same one twice. You would always, like, downward glide forward strong in the air, or something crazy like that.
Yeah, the amount of control that you have with the gliding with Zephyr, it took a little bit of getting used to. I mostly, like, caught on quickly because I'd played Emolga before, which was like the predecessor to Zephyr, basically. And with Emolga, it was way harder to control. Like, Emolga was significantly faster than Zephyr was, and a lot smaller, and gliding was controlled by this meter, which is completely gone now.
Not entirely, it's invisible now.
It's invisible now, but yeah, it's a lot more intuitive now, just controlling Zephyr in the air, because, you know, not only do you have, like, these big movements, like the way the gliding works, you go down, you gain speed, you move up, you lose speed, works pretty similarly to the gliding in Brawl.
Actually, it's even simpler. It's even simpler than that. It literally takes whatever direction you're going, however much speed that is, and it rotates it, and then also adds gravity. That's it. That's all it does. That's the entire glide.
Okay.
Blowing Sparks' mind as we speak right now.
Yeah.
And the thing is that Emolga had way higher gravity. Like, they had the standard 0.5, which made them really fast. They also didn't have a cap on how fast glide could go, and so you just
so you
speed
really
up
just
forever.
picked up speed with them. Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense then. Because yeah, with Zephyr, like, first of all, compared to Emolga, they added a few different things. With Emolga, you pretty much only entered glide with Nair and up B, if I'm correct, and that carried over to Zephyr. You still have the same Nair, and you still have the same up B for glide, but you also have a side B dive, which you can enter glide with, as well as the strong attacks, which is definitely my favorite part of the character. The way they work is, they're kind of like air dashes in all four directions, but the catch is that when you're charging them, you enter your glide, and that gives you so much freedom in what you can do. Like the way that you can position yourself with your glide is you essentially preemptively, like, position yourself, saying, I want to move here in the air, or I want to be right next to the ground, or I want to, like, even just stall myself in the air for just a little bit as I'm charging this strong attack. Is insane. It's so addicting. and there's so much freedom in what you can do with it and how you can control your glide to like put yourself in the right spot at the right time.
I think that's something I noticed definitely doing a bit of digging back into Zera before this was, I can't remember if it's down special or one of their strongs, but Zera can put down a pole on the x-axis wherever you're going, and it'll immediately reverse your direction and carry the momentum you had. And I remember while I was playing Friendlies, my friend Vice, he loved it. He thought it was the coolest fucking thing.
Exactly.
Me
too.
Me too.
He'd skate across like the bottom of rock wall and then down B and just do it over and over again. It was insane. And I think what's really cool about it is the fact that you give that option of control to people with stuff like Zephyr Strongs, with stuff like Zera's down special. I think that's down special.
It's neutral
Please
special.
Neutral special.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, please correct me if I'm wrong. But I think it's cool that you give them like so much more like initiative for where they can go, where they want to move in a game series that's all about moving.
Zoom.
Like
Zoom.
I
think it
come
does
from
help. Okay.
No, it's alright, Dougie, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it does help with the case of rivals being different with usual games like Smash and what do you call most other platform fighters have this problem where shielding prohibits you from moving as much as you should, because they give you a defense option that isn't really helpful to its genre, like keeping you down still and having to deal with the pressure rather than moving away from it, which I think Rivals does very well. And
Oh yeah, Rivals is
Zephyr
completely
as well.
built around that. Yeah. Yeah, like even as my experience was like as just a base cast player, like positioning is by far the most important thing that you can learn for defensive play. It's just knowing how to keep yourself out of the range of hitboxes, because sure, parrying is really, really good and you can land it, but there's a risk to it, and if you just want to keep yourself safe, you don't need it half the time. So just being able to like position yourself and be like, hey, I'm gonna stay out of your range, and you're gonna need to either use creative movement to get on me, or I'm gonna need to use creative movement to punish you and like punish your whiff. And whiff punishing, because that's huge in Rivals.
And whiff punishing also comes with like predictability, like knowing your opponent is gonna throw a move once they reach a certain distance to you, and having a lot of different movement option does help, because then you can get more creative. You know, you can go in like a loop, like an infinite sign as well, like just go all over your opponent, messing up their timings. It's great. I love Rivals. Yeah.
So, may I interject real quick? So,
Go for it.
before Rivals Workshop was announced, I was trying to make a plat fighter of my own.
Ooh,
That's interesting.
And the main things were, like, instead of any shield button, it would just be a movement boost in whatever direction. And you had a dedicated instantly reverse all your momentum button. It would be horrible in competitive level. I could tell immediately now, but I had a lot of fun with that. I made a prototype, and it was very fun to play.
I wonder if we could have that
Yeah.
as like a buddy in like Rivals right now, rather
Oh,
than having
God.
like a neutral air dodge or a parry. You just go boost.
Boost.
Boom.
That'd be sick, yeah.
and that philosophy kind of carried over to the characters in Workshop.
You know, I can definitely see the similarities between that and Zera as well. Like, you've got the neutral special to reverse your momentum at any point, and then, like, the entire character is just built around building up speed, so...
Yeah, built around building up and paying off from it. I don't remember at what point of the character it became that, because every time I make a character, their initial plan and how they end up is, like, nowhere close to each other.
But that's a creative process, right?
Yeah.
Like you just
Yeah.
start off with an idea and it just branches out to so many things.
Zephyr ended up with only half the moves they were originally planned to have, and 1 out of the 3 mechanics they originally were planned to have.
Oh god.
So I won't get into them now or anything, but the Strongs were one of those, the ones that stayed. So
Good.
those are pretty much always like that.
I think it's something that I really want to emphasize to the people listening is that like it feels really nice when you're playing a game and they let like you get that initiative over movement. Like I play a lot of traditional fighters and Ducky does too. We both do. We both also play Rivals on an arcade stick. I don't know about Ducky. I think you have the same thing. But basically,
Weird.
Yeah, I know it is
Yeah.
weird. It's super
I know it's weird, bro.
Weird.
I know it's weird.
Like, the keyboard players are already weird, but there's so many of them at this point that I kind of just have to play it off. But you guys are weird.
I
Well,
play
I
on
mean,
keyboard.
It's basically like playing on a keyboard. If you
Yeah.
if you think about it. Like most arcade sticks are comprised of the stick itself and the gate that detects movement. And the most common type of gate, the one that was used in a lot of American arcades, is the square gate.
Bro,
So
what do you
essentially-
mean American arcades? That's just like arcades in general. We
I
had
just-
square gates in the Philippines. Yeah, what are you talking
I've
about?
never been to the Philippines. How am I supposed to know?
Octogate
just-
was actually popularized in America. What do you mean?
Is that, man, I might just be wrong. It might just be another BK is wrong moment. Anyway, so in traditional fighters, a lot of the time, when there's stuff that, like, rewards movement, it's like you don't get as much control over it as you do here. I think, like, the 2 closest examples I could think of off the top of my head that let you control your movement as much as you can, like, with Zephyr, is Master Roshi and Yosuke Hanamura.
Mm-hmm.
In fighters, Ducky can vouch for this. She's lost to my Roshi several a time.
The dog shit, they're dog shit.
In fighters, there's a button, or rather, if you press heavy and special, you do what the game calls a homing dash, where you just instantly home onto your opponent no matter where they are. And it like auto locks, and then it's infamous for being impeccable. It never doesn't work. It never sends you randomly into one direction and just almost all the way to the top of the map. It never does that, right, Ducky?
No, it's
Never.
just like and
It's
Super Dash just like it's like a homing missile. You become a homing missile, and I'm like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
But when Roshi came out, one of the big things that they played on is the fact that out of every character in Dragon Ball that, like, isn't Hercule, Roshi doesn't know how to fly. So he can't do a homing dash. So what they gave him instead was essentially a grounded and a aerial version of what every other character has, which are the Master's Leap and the Reverse Kamehameha, respectfully. The Master's Leap lets you move either left and right or up and down to some degree. Like if I hold, I think it would be, if I hold back on my stick and I press the button, I go forward more. If I press down and forward on my stick and push the button, I go up more. And when you enter the air, it becomes different. You can aim up left, up right, down left, down right, and back
Like
and
all
forth.
eight directions, right?
You can aim in 6 directions. The only
Six
directions it doesn't let you move is up and down, which is the most important ones. Because the thing about Roshi's Reverse Kamehameha is that unlike if you hit someone with a super dash, in fighters, you're minus on block unless you cover yourself with assist for I think like around 3, maybe 10 frames at most.
Mhm.
But with Roshi, if you land a Reverse Kamehameha, you're plus if they block it for 5 frames. Which is, you know, that sort of paying off, you know, being able to control where the hell you move. Because now you have a state of being +5 on block while nobody else gets that at all.
That's very interesting. Even though I play fighters, I don't have any experiences with Roshi. being broke and all. Thank you for having a part-time job and stuff. But like, I can see how that could be really interesting, especially it's a good play on the formula, knowing that every character can just like hit you like a homing missile, and Roshi can be a little bit more creative.
What I think is like so strange when I sat down and thought about it is like Rivals borrows a lot more of its design from traditional fighters than it does Smash. Like, they kind of carry the same principle of like, if, whiffing or whiff punishing people and like, playing around a neutral space is highly important. And if you want to act defensively, you have to give up some of that movement. For Rivals, you have to press parry, which halts your movement for a moment, like as you do the parry. And for traditional fighters, it's holding back, which, isn't forward.
Yeah, and like holding back gives up space, which is very similar to how Rival does it, where if you're not moving, you're just gonna be like a sitting duck and giving up space for your opponent to just conquer and cover you with.
Right, and I think what makes it so different to say that like Rivals borrows from traditional design instead of Smash is like, as you said earlier, like Smash has shielding, which is like, this end-all be-all for defensive options, but it also like makes movement very stiff. And when you look at like the neutral for like Tekken and fighters, it's like there's a lot more movement going on there that's more similar to Am I gonna be attacked on Twitter if I say Rivals is more structured similarly to Tekken than Smash Bros?
I don't know.
I don't know. That's all on you.
I feel like that might happen, but I could make an argument for it either way. But I think like going to the other example of Yosuke from Arena 4, which by the way, I know Sparks has at least heard of music from Arena 4 because he has Margaret's theme on Endless Abyss and it's fucking based.
Yep.
The thing about Yosuke, which they butchered in Tag, is that in canon, usually the characters that use the wind element in Persona games are usually the fastest. And Yosuke's whole thing is that he can essentially dart around the whole screen. It's like Chip Zanuff if you fed him crack.
Okay.
He can cling onto walls, he can teleport, he has a glide. Yes, he has a glide. I just remembered that. And his whole thing is basically building up a meter that you have with Super. And the more you build it up, the faster you go. To the point where I can like jump off of corners on the screen and then come down on you with a mix-up. Sorry, I've been a little bit under the weather. But it's another one of those things that Shplurmff was talking about, where it's like you get to build up speed and you're rewarded for letting it off in like a creative way, rather than just like, I move forward. I'm gonna push button. That's what the ape in me tells me to do.
The ape in you, alright.
Yeah, I think there is an ape. There's an ape in all of us. And it's like...
I don't know if I want to think about it like that.
No. It's like, what we like when it comes to like things that do, like with what Sparks is talking about, where like you can know where your opponent's going to be and you can read them and you can come on with a strong and you can punish them. And it's like all this, and we like things that give us more incentive to do things than just like, I move left, right, I go fast.
Oh yeah, Zephyr enables me to play like a dumbass.
Yeah, I'm moving way too fast. You can't hit me. Like, let's go for it.
How are you gonna know what I'm gonna do? I don't even know what I'm gonna do.
Right. like it's especially funny to me in particular because the way I play Eliana in Basecast is like as far away as I play Zephyr as possible. Like, if I'm playing Eliana, I'm being super patient, I'm putting down steam, I'm managing my resources and making sure that I can spend it all at the right time. Zephyr, I'm going in. I don't care what you're doing, I'm gonna just use my glide, I wanna get in your face, I wanna set up my slipstream, and I wanna kill you at 20.
But I mean, like, I don't play too much of Zephyr at, like, the level you do, but even when I, like, picked up the character, like, passively, like, I really enjoy the type of rushdown it ensues, because it's so indicative of, like, more older styles of rushdown that I like that I don't really get much anymore, where it's like, hold on, it's not like, nowadays where it's like I run up to you as a quote-unquote rushdown, but I have, like, an average movement speed and once I get in, I have like a collection of slow normal. Like if I pick Zephyr, I'm fast.
Right.
I don't have to worry about being like, you know, slightly above average speed. I can go from here to there in like 2/5 of a second. And it lets like the inner aggressor in me like just keep going. That's always what I've wanted in a fighting game, is a character that can just keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Like
I mentioned this the other day when I was playing in Giga Bowser's stream, because at some point I was just like, hey, let me play Zephyr against your Sylve. I know this won't go well, but I want to do it anyway. And it kind of reminded me of just playing my shitty Maple secondary. like it was pretty obvious that I didn't have nearly as much experience playing this character compared to Giga, who's been playing Sylve for thousands of hours. But at the same time, there was those moments where it's just like, man, I can just get in there and do these crazy things. And like, especially with how Zephyr sets up Slipstream and the amount of movement as well as the amount of power boost it gives to your strongs, it reminded me of Maple and like how you set up Mark to wrap them or tether to them, and you really just get in there and get stuff done. And it's hard. It's really hard. It's definitely one of those things where it's like I would have to devote thousands of hours just to get even close to, you know, the level of base cast, and I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to do that. Probably not. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like it really just felt rewarding to pull it off, and it was really cool.
Yeah, it definitely is a blast, even though I'm totally not contractually obligated to say this. I do like commentating your sets. I'm an
Commentator bias. We know
I'm
who he
under
likes now.
no obligation to say such a thing to Sparks. I just really enjoy watching like things happen very fast. It excites the ape within me.
For sure.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about, like transitioning, is exactly like, you know, how you set up Slipstream, and how I think like as an idea, like how you go about doing it is so fucking cool. Like this might be another moment where Bowler can write an entire book on like why I think this is such a cool idea, and why I think like you can put it to like the same concept of other mechanics. Like if you could take the same principle and move it to like, it doesn't have to be about movement, it could be like for anything else. I think it's so cool is the fact that you activate Slipstream when you start your advantage state. You knock them into the ring, and that sets up your advantage. It's not like I have to set it up beforehand and then hope I win. If I win neutral and get you into that ring, my Slipstream starts. It's my turn to play the game.
My philosophy when making Rivals movesets is if I can't set up my special stage control thing in the middle of a combo, what's the point?
Yes.
Honestly,
yes.
Honestly, I feel like that's something I would like people to take away from this. Because, like, I think I was going to pull a comparison to Raster, but it would be very poor considering the amount of games I've played with Raster is lower than the amount of women I've seen in my life.
I can help with that.
What, you can find them? Yo,
Oh,
Spider's
no,
like
no,
great
no,
wingman?
not that, the Raster, wait!
But no, it's like, one of the things that I think, like I said, it's just so cool how I'm essentially rewarded for proper positioning before my advantage state. And then once I'm in the position to start comboing you, and I get you into it, I'm further rewarded. Shplurmff is handing me 3% on a silver platter because you DI'd wrong.
Right.
I get to wear the bib that says good boy and dine into this fresh stock I've been delivered.
That's kind of brutal, but yeah, sure, we can go with that.
I mean, that's just, that's like the proper emotional vocabulary compared to like just how passionate I feel about this because it's so cool.
Yeah. And the funniest part about it to me is like, you know, the thing about setting up Slipstream is that, like, you have to be on them in order to set up for the first place. Like, sure, you can kind of just throw it in some corner there for, it's like, hey, if you happen to go in this area, you know, maybe I'll set up Slipstream. But what I like to do with it is I like to, like, use a projectile on them mid-combo to set up Slipstream. Because then it's just like, hey, you're already here. All
We
I
might
have to
as
do
well.
is hit you. Yeah, all I have to do at this point is hit you into this ring, which you're gonna be closer to, and then I can get stuff going. You know?
Yeah, I know. I know very well because I played you, and I was terrified of DIing wrong. Like, you have absolutely no fear when it comes to charging off stage to close out a stock. So,
Oh, that's the dumbass part of me.
whenever I'm
That's
hitting to that, whenever I'm hitting to that slipstream, and I'm like, my back is to the blast zone, I'm thinking, oh god, if I fuck up this DI, I'm about to eat a charged Zephyr Forge Strong and die off the side at like 70. I'm not gonna fuck this up. two games out of 3, I fucked it up.
Yeah, and that's definitely, like, the scariest part of me. That's, like, that mostly comes from my experience of playing an air character, admittedly, because I'm used to going off stage and doing dumb shit like that. Just playing Eliana, like, most base cast players are more familiar with Missile Nair at this point, because you have this missile, which is like this projectile follow-up, which just so happens to pair perfectly with Eliana's hover, which you can then use to just position yourself perfectly for a sweet spot in air, and then you can just keep doing it over and over and over again. Just, you know, either missile nair or missile hover nair, hover nair, hover nair, just over and over until they're carried into the side blast zone. And it's one of those things where it's like just perfectly positioning yourself with your hover, which to me, in my brain, and when I'm playing Zephyr, it's like, perfectly positioning with a hover or perfectly positioning with your glide. I see where I'm going with this.
I think it kind of helps too, like design-wise. I think there's definitely like a difference in that scale that you're talking about, because like, you know, when you say you play Eliana, it's like a very patient game plan. It's like, you know, there's a lot more if I remember correctly, from like the smidge I played of Eliana, there's like a lot more projectiles there with like the gauntlet, and you know, you can set up a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
You can set up a lot more stuff on screen, and you know, also Eliana isn't like this big fucking mech.
Yeah, the weird
Whereas-
part about Eliana is the meter, but because all the projectiles they take up your meter, but if you fill up the meter all the way, you overheat, and all of a sudden you can't use those projectiles anymore. So you kind of have to balance. Yeah, so you kind of just have to balance that out. It's like, okay, you know, I want to use a projectile at this point, but it also might be a good idea to use steam, which lowers heat every now and then. And that's a whole other can of worms I'm not gonna go into, but
Resource management.
woo!
Oh yeah!
Woo! You know, like talking about Eliana gets me like, you know, semi pumped up, because in ACR I play Robo-Kai, which essentially serves like the sort of same niche that Eliana does in Rivals, just like ACR came out in like 97 instead of 2015. But
Why did it take so long for us to get this? Come on, guys.
hold on. But I mean, like, what I was saying was, like, in a design sense, like, you know, Eliana's, you know, like, in this big mech, you got a lot more projectiles, you know, you're naturally gonna want to start, like, playing a more patient game plan, whereas Zephyri's what, a squirrel?
Yeah.
You're this tiny little purple flying squirrel. You're, like, you're still taller than Inner, but you're still pretty short. And, you know, like, you don't have that, like, implication of, like, there's this big mech, I'm slow, I got a lot of projectiles. You got one projectile that sets up your mechanic. Go free, have at him, fuck him up.
You are the
Yep.
projectile.
You are
POV.
the projectile.
You are the projectile. So I think, like,
Yeah.
it's important probably to look at how, like, you know, you got two different characters which for you share, like, a similar game plan with, like, you know, being air characters and having all this, you know, air-based stuff, but, you know, they have, like, different ends to aggression
no,
versus
yeah.
defensive playstyles.
Like if I played Zephyr how I played Eliana, I would die, and if I played Eliana how Zephyr plays, I would absolutely die. So
It's a good balance, you know.
yeah, it's they definitely go about the game in different ways for sure. I mostly mentioned the air character thing just because of how, you know, both characters tend to combo the opponent and just get them stuck in this absolute vortex of never-ending hits. But yeah, I'm not sure where I'm going with that.
It's alright, I kind of had something I wanted to follow up with, is that, like, I think it's important to talk about how, like, it's okay to have two characters that share a similar concept but fall onto different ends of the spectrum. Because I feel as if, like, you know, I moderately browse EXW modding discussion. Like, I moderately browse it about as often as I visit my uncle, which is, like, twice a year.
Okay, weird flex.
And it's
weird
like-
flex.
It's not a weird flex. Shut up, I love my uncle. But the thing is, like, when I go through there and it's like I talk with people, it's like, you know, they're talking about their character ideas, and one of the things that a lot of people get caught up about is like, well, this is, like, really similar to this, and, you know, a lot of people think when you make a workshop character, you kind of have to reinvent the wheel each and every time.
Oh,
Not at all.
no.
Like, just do your own thing. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be like as unique. If you want to borrow a move from a character, dude, just do it.
Yeah, if it works, it works. Like,
Yeah, and I find it, like, important to bring up here how it's like, we have two characters, one in base cast, one in workshop, you know, similar enough in that aerial superiority theme, but it's like, I don't know who coded Eliana, so I can't say who, went in the direction of projectile-based defensive resource management, and Shplurmff went in the direction of, alright, you're the missile, baby, go get him.
I'm just happy we have an actual air character in workshop now.
Yeah.
Like we've had somewhat air characters, but like it's not the same.
I think Palm is the closest.
Yeah,
next
that's
one.
what I was about to say. It's like Palm.
And then while they're not actually an air character, Epinel's pretty close.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, but yeah, like Epinel brings the combo aspect of air characters, but then with Palm you have the movement aspect, I feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then you have Zephyr who brings both, and it's beautiful, and I love them.
I think there's, like, a lot of movement things that, like, even from other, you know, like from Smash and, like, a bunch of other things, like, there still hasn't been all that much really explored. Like, I'm still waiting to where I can get, like, Meta Knight style air combos again, or, like, God, what is it? I'm trying to remember. It's not it's Magneto. It's Magneto's whole fucking air game from Marvel.
Bro, just play Heartbreak. Heartbreak exists.
No? What? Weird Champ? You want me to become free?
Bro, Heartbreak has amazing wave dashing, bro. With the air taunting as a movement option, is an amazing feeling character, to be honest.
I'm just
Yeah.
gonna take your word for it.
When I played Heartbreak, it was like it almost reminded me of like Slap City Clutch, just on everything.
It's just like it also being able to adjust your vertical movement at any time, so you can like shorten up special whenever you want, and it was kind of fun to play around with it.
Yeah. I didn't know what I was doing, but it was fun.
You know, that kind of reminds me of something you said on stream once, where I was commentating. I think it was something along the lines of like, Zephyr's upward slipstream is pretty useless.
Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't call it useless. I just call it a bit of a meme.
Yeah, you say that, and it was like, you know, we just like we're talking about controlling vertical momentum with Heartbreak, and it, you know, I remembered how like the first time you used a vertical stream in BB last Friday, I made a note of it because it's like. Not many people know if you tap the button again, you can rotate the slipstream.
Yeah. That's pretty much like the only time I actually ever use vertical slipstream. It's not because I want vertical slipstream, it's because I want to pop them up or send them downwards.
Wait, if you flip it the other way, will it like spike?
Yes, if it's pointed downwards, it spikes. It's not very strong, but it's a spike, and you can combo into a down smash or a up B spike as well.
That's interesting. I didn't
There's at
actually-
least
Yeah.
there's at least one thing vertical slipstream can do, and that is if you just jump and then hold strong without holding anything, you get to like the top of the screen without anything else. But
Yeah.
it's not all that useful.
Yeah, like compared to the amount of utility that, you know, the horizontal slipstream, like when you're gliding, you're mostly moving to the side, so you're that's kind of what you want from your slipstream, is to keep the momentum going with you. And especially with how horizontally oriented a lot of Zephyri's combos are, it's just like it makes sense why you just want to keep the horizontal slipstream for the most part. But yeah, vertical slipstream, it has stuff. I'm not gonna say it doesn't, but it's definitely the worst option of the two.
We have to put more effort and time into it. You know, it's scientific research.
The very important research we do here on Study Nights, the very important research that we do beforehand for preparation. I find it really interesting how, like, that's how you feel about, you know, like, the vertical slipstream, when earlier Shplurmff said that he, you know, you really like more of the horizontal combos in Smash than the vertical ones.
Right.
And I think, like, it kind of shows, you know, with, like, how vertical slipstream has, like, more niche of uses in Zephyri's toolkit compared to the horizontal one, which, as we've seen from you, just does so much
Oh yeah.
in, like, good hands. I think I was going to call... What was it? I was going to say earlier that Zephyr, you know, as a character who, like, prioritizes getting someone into, like, that state of, you know, like, getting them into the ring, which, by the way, holds them in place. I didn't mention that earlier, but I also find that fucking cool. Like,
Oh yeah.
I find it amazing.
It was visually
Like-
based off of Super Mario Galaxy's launch stars.
Nice.
I'm,
I like that.
This is the point where I say Zephyri's hit into slipstream is a mix-up situation not akin to grapplers, and then I duck under and hide beneath my desk as the non-existent crowd we have proceeds to throw tomatoes at me for dare uttering the G word on my podcast.
But yeah, no, like the way that the slipstream just keeps you in place is like, or sorry, the wind ring, I guess, keeps you in place is just so satisfying. And it honestly works really well with like Zephyri's kit as a whole, because like you have confirms out of it, obviously. I think like hitting them into the wind ring and then popping them out and then comboing that into an up smash is like by far my favorite confirm. It is so satisfying to pull that off. And even then, it's not like completely free. Like depending on the if the opponent DIs out or DIs in, there's a bit of a mix up to it as well. But also, what I find really satisfying about it is you have, you know, a couple of multi-hit moves on Zephyr that linger for a lot of time, that being F tilt and down air. So if you're on the ground, or on a platform, and you're like standing right next to the opponent stuck in a wind ring, if you F tilt them, you know, not only does that like, basically it like racks up damage as they're stuck, and then as soon as they get thrown out, they're hit by the last hit of F tilt, and they get sent forward. And that's a perfect setup for an empowered F smash to just kill them. I've done that a lot. I've gotten a number of clips like that, and it is incredibly satisfying to pull off. And you can say similar things for down air as well. You know, even though it doesn't have quite the angle of F tilt does, the nice part about it is if you set up the slipstream like higher in the air, you know, then you can just use a down air instead of F tilt to just pop them upwards and then maybe try and get an empowered up smash afterwards. And it's a super satisfying thing to pull off. But yeah, just in general, like the way it synergizes with the kit is just like, it's just like this one-time use where it's like, hey, you can extend this combo a little bit further than you would normally. And you also get slipstream out of it, which is just amazing.
Speaking of those moves, down air and F tilt, I
Mhm.
made it a goal of mine to not make the common workshop creator mistake and make them all command grabs.
Yes. Yes, thank you.
I made the Empowered Strongs grabbish, but like that's only because otherwise, like, you really need those to connect.
Yeah,
But-
no, they that wouldn't work in Rival's Engine without it. And it's like with moves like that, it's okay. Like Ori Up Smash,
Ori Up
the
Smash
empowered
uses it.
version uses it as well. Yeah, so it's like, big movements like that, it's okay. But I remember there was specifically a change way back in early access where Zetterburn Nair used to be a command grab. It is definitely not anymore because we
God.
quickly realized that was a bad idea. I think the only multi-hit Nair that's still a command grab is like Absa's. That's it. There's no others.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think what also helps, like, this is probably more of a personal thing, but I don't know if you can attest to this. But I think what also helps knocking them into a wind ring such like a good thing to land in combos is the fact that you hold them in place.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, when you start your combo, you don't have to worry too much about, like, where's their DI going? Like, where are, where are they going to drift to? Things like that, like, commonly with other characters, that might be more of a concern. It's like, if you knock them into a wind ring, it's like, this is your reward. You get to decide how we do this. And then you pop Slipstream, and then you can follow up with, like, you can go off the top, you could go off the side, you could go for, like, a down strong spike. You could go for what, like, you want, what you think would best fit the situation. And again, it's that, like, giving us the ability to choose what we want instead of it being like, we have like a more limited amount of options, with movement and with combos. I think like that's what makes the character fun, even though I'm pretty dog shit with them.
Yeah, for sure. Like, that's kind of what I was getting into a little bit with, like, using the multi-hits to, like, just perfectly time it. But even then, like let's say the wind ring is further away, you still have time to get a quick aerial and, like, maybe a nair or an up air. Or if you really want to, like, try and secure a kill off it, you can go for a slower option like up smash and try to go for that DI read that I was talking about. Like, there's so many options out of it, and it's really satisfying once you pull it off.
Definitely. So, Shplurmff, I had this question come up while we were discussing this. You mentioned that you liked the Donkey Kong platformers, like the recent ones, like Tropical Freeze and Returns, and
Yeah.
I think you mentioned Celeste at one point.
Yeah.
Are you, like, just in general, a bigger fan of platformers that give you, like, that horizontal movement thing that we kind of went over maybe, like, half an hour ago or something, where it's like, in the DKC games, you got the roll, and Celeste, you get, like, this dash that you can use to move around.
My favorite thing, specifically from Tropical Freeze, is the Cranky Kong ability.
Oh, yeah.
You get to pogo on the ground, or enemies, or you can pogo off of spiked enemies, which you normally can't. But the important thing is it conserves all of your speed, and so you get to start a roll, jump out of the roll. You're going at like ludicrously fast speeds, and you just time your pogos with where you want to go. And you're soaring through everything, and it's just the most satisfying thing in the world to me. I really want to make that move mechanic in a character at some point.
That sounds sick. I would be super down to try that.
I have a pogo stick character concept lying around, and I want to use it.
Well, I think I had, like, a few other things I wanted to talk about, which was, namely, like, hold on one sec, I gotta get a cough. Do you feel like, Sparks, you can kind of, like, quiet down for this one, because you probably want to say the answer to this one. Like, do you feel Zephyr falls into the meme that, like, most workshop characters do, of, like, they have a harder time killing?
If you asked me that question like 2 days ago, I'd probably say yes. But I had justifications for everything, which was, since you can use the kill moves anywhere, they necessarily have to be a lot less powerful. And might be unsurprising for some, but the strongest move Zephyr has is up tilt in terms of numbers, which is like weakish strong in Rivals terms. But the point is, since you can very easily get people into the situation of very close to the blast zone, I don't think they have a hard time.
Well, I think we've gone through most of the points I've had here, that I've really wanted to talk about and really stress. Is there anything really in closing you two want to pipe up about for people at home? Like anything you would want them to take away from this, specifically that we hadn't mentioned so far?
I just want to talk about super wave dashing real quick.
Yeah, let's go!
Yay!
All right, you have the floor.
So, it was like, I don't remember when we talked about it. It was like a little bit after Zephyr's release, but Shplurmff and I were like having a discussion of like old things that Zephyr used to have, and you pointed out this bug that was in just Workshop in general, where it's like, what was it again? You can explain it.
So there are different types of ways moves can set their own speed, and the one I was using was one that was supposed to set your speed to a certain value throughout the duration of a certain period. The bug is that on the first frame of that period, it just adds the speed to whatever speed you already had. So just for that tiny frame, you have a lot of speed, but it gets smoothed out in the rest of them, so you usually don't notice. But the bug here is it's on F strong at the same time you're landing, so that when you land, you have that giant boost of speed on the ground. You slide across the ground real fast.
Yeah, and then there was one patch where it's like you made the window like less than one frame.
Yeah, and now it's 4 frames, I think.
Yeah, now it's 4 frames.
And
okay.
I think 6 for the empowered one, but I'm not sure.
Gotcha. And yeah, at some point after that, it was just like, I was kind of just sitting there to myself, it's like, okay, I can't find anyone for games, I'm just gonna go into training mode and like, try and see if I can figure out some dumb stuff for movement. And I remembered that conversation we had about the super, well, now what we know is the super wave dash, and it's just like, maybe I can try and find like some consistent setup for that. And sure enough, if you do a running short hop F smash and then immediately use the F smash and hold down afterwards, you land at just the right time for that slide, and thus was born the super wave dash. I definitely think, I'm not sure, it might have been possible before the change, but the change definitely made it like significantly easier and more consistent to perform.
So the fun fact about that setup, if you're using the other control scheme, which is hold right to rotate clockwise, hold left to rotate counterclockwise during glide.
Oh god.
Which is what I use.
Okay.
The setup is literally just hold forward, short hop F smash, just hold that for as little time as possible, and you don't have to unhold at any point. You just hold forward, and it works every time.
That's really funny.
Because, okay, so the thing about the glide is that even if you have the other control scheme where you like can rotate freely, you can only rotate a certain amount per frame, which is the amount that you would rotate in the other control scheme.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're holding down, it will move itself towards down, but at the same rate as if you were just holding forward on the other control scheme.
That's really funny. But yeah, I just find it funny how like that bug like was intentionally made a little bit easier, and then we found a setup for it. I just think that's a funny story.
I personally think it's really cool because like a lot of the cool tech from Melee, which like a lot of people still play competitively and think it's the better competitive Smash, is like unintentional jank that got like patched out of later ones. And personally for me, who like really enjoys the complicated techniques of Melee, even though I can't really do them. I just think they're cool. And it's like to see developers, instead of being like, all right, well, shit, we forgot to put a bracket on that one. All right, next time we're gonna put a bracket on that. No, that won't happen anymore. It's like, oh, well, this is cool. It's a super wave dash. You know, you can use it for a lot of movement options. And, you know, Zephyri's already a movement-based character. Fuck it. 1 frame to 4, baby.
Yeah, no, it fits perfectly.
Let's make it bigger.
I think that's really cool. I think it's really cool when developers look at stuff and it's like, well, it doesn't really hurt anything, and it's pretty cool. It's why don't we make it easier? Just see what happens. I'm a big fan of developers who have the confidence to say, fuck it, throw something at a wall, and if the egg breaks, they're not ashamed to, like, go over, pick it up, and throw another egg.
Bro, to all that workshop creators out there, just make your character wild. You think you want to keep this balance? No, just go wild at it, you know?
Rice,
Throw
I know you're
random
watching. Rice, please buff Starfy. I've been asking you for years. Please, you can't keep doing this to me. You can't keep taunting me with this promise and not delivering. Please, I beg of you. Why does Ford Special put me in parry stun? Why?
Just let him slide with it, you know? Like,
Yeah.
cross the stage for sure.
For me, as long as it's not causing problems in Blueberry Bout, because that's the only one I'm paying attention to right now, then it's fine. Whatever.
Yes, Sparks, can you slip in
Oh,
more
yeah.
characters from Blueberry Mountain?
I actually need to try them. I have to admit I have never tried any of your characters, but they are all on the list of characters to test right now.
I am even flattered that I'm on the list, to be honest. Thank you.
Yeah, well, when I was doing some roster talk for the tournament I plan on hosting, which I had to take a sort of different approach to, because as much as I like your philosophy for Blueberry Bout's roster, where it's like, you know, you don't complain about characters, and the roster is just whatever I find fun. It was like, well, I was building the roster for this tournament that's supposed to have, like, a prize pool that I can at least semi-afford. It was like, well,
Right.
should we put in Zephyr? And I was like, you know, I thought, Zephyr's fine to add in. People play her in BB. And it's like, Sparks plays her. Can't be that bad. Like, I'm just a big... What was that? Be quiet.
Where are they? Yeah. It's all good.
I mean, I just think that overall, you made a hit, Shplurmff. You've hit twice. I've yet to see you miss. I find the movement you introduce and, like, how you've pulled, like, your movement intrigue from, like, newer Donkey Kong games and, like, other platformers. Yeah, I just find it neat. I'm Marge Simpson holding up the funny squirrel and saying I think it's neat. Because I really do think it's neat. Anyway, that's about all I wanted to talk about. Sparks, Shplurmff, thank you so much for agreeing to come onto the podcast tonight. It was a really, really interesting time to have the two of you on here as both the top player and the creator of said character that top player plays.
Yeah, definitely.